Hello, friends, and welcome to a brand new episode of Discourse and Magic. My name is Jonah Babbins, and in this episode, we sit down with Mario the Maker Magician. Mario is a kid's magician, and he makes and builds a lot of the magic that's in his show. That means he used things like tape and magnets and wires and robots and anything like that. And in this episode, not only do we learn how he does what he does, but also why he does what he does and what he's hoping that it does to inspire the kids that he's performing for and to inspire other magicians. So this was an incredible episode. He was incredibly passionate and we had such a good time and such a laugh. So I think you're really going to enjoy it. Here it is, a wonderful episode with Mario, the Maker Magician. Hello, friends, and welcome to Discourse and Magic. My name is Jonah Babbins, and we are here with the one and only Mario, the Maker Magician. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's so good to be on here, Jonah.
I am super excited to chat with you. You are in that underground group of people that is one of the most recommended people for this podcast. I don't know if you know that.
No, that's awesome.
I get messages all time saying you have to have Mario on. So it's great. And I've been absolutely hooked on all of your stuff and it's really cool. So I'm really excited to dive in and talk all of these details. Let's start at the very beginning. How did you get into magic?
I got into magic later in life. A lot of magicians get into magic since they were kids. And I did some foolish things. I left my parents' house at 17. I hitchhiked cross country with my dog, Cloud Kicker. And I loved street performing. I played music.
Whoa, what a crazy sentence.
Oh, it was terrible.
Gosh.
It was.
That's great.
And that whole thing evolved into me meeting a bunch of kids, you know, stinky squatter punk rock kids. And we just all like trooped together. And I ended up in Michigan. And by accident, I walked into a magic shop in Grand Rapids, Michigan at 22 years old. It was called the Hippity Hop Magic Shop, and Jim and Michelle Parks owned it. And the first time I walked in, I didn't leave, you know, like I never saw magic before. And I got hooked, man. You know how it is. It's like a bug, you know, and I started hanging out there like a coffee shop. They had to kick me out. Like I just watched every person walk in who was performing, Jim performing, you know, and I joined the magic club there. And I met amazing people that I didn't realize how amazing they were while I was there until after I left. Like giants like Rick Merrill, who won FISM, Gene Anderson, he like changed my life. You know, he taught me lessons in magic for like 2-3 months. And it just kind of evolved from that.
Wow, what a crazy story. I've never heard any story like that. Usually they got a magic set, but that was crazy. You know, the part that's really interesting to me in there is that you left with your dog and then figured out busking, like you were playing music. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So like I lived in a town called Nyack, New York, which I live in now. And I met this bearded kid that was laying on a bench in front of a restaurant. And he's like, I hitchhiked here. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I sleep in the bushes at the park. And I was like, what? There's like a culture of people that do this? You know, like it blew my mind. From there, I was playing in a punk band and some of the kids there lived in Philly. And this is where it gets crazy, right? Is that I end up in Michigan with these kids, these punk rock traveler kids. And 13, 14, 20 years later, right? I'm in the Performing Arts Center in Canton, Michigan. And who shows up? It's the family that let me sleep on their couch for 3 weeks. That was at the theater there this year. And I stopped my show and I looked at them and I thanked them in front of everybody. I said, thank you that you brought me into your house and I stunk like crap and I brought my dog and like you let me live there and you fed me and you just let me do music and let me be me, you know, even though I wasn't ready yet for society, right? Like I was trying to find myself and it was so awesome, you know, to like thank them because that's what it's about. It's about like, how can we help people that are in front of us right now? Like who's in front of us right now and what can we do to help them? And that's what they did for me, right? Long story short, their daughter, Jen, she was one of the people that I traveled with. She's married and she has a house and family of her own. And like, they're coming to my magic show like 20 years later. And like, it's just amazing.
It's crazy.
Because you find magic at 22, right? And then like, you get obsessed with it. And then I come home at 23 and all my friends graduated college. They're all buying houses. And I'm sitting there with like a bunch of sponge balls and like linking rings from Gene Anderson. And I'm like, what am I doing with my life? You know, like, what am I doing with my life? And like, you know, it was a big shocker, but I'm living in my parents' basement, you know, at 23, trying to figure out and reset there's something to be said there. Like the idea of allowing people a time period to find themselves, that's really sacred, you know? Like that's a sacred time, 17 to 23. Like, and a lot of people like kind of bash on that age range, you know, like you need to get your life together, you need to be in college, you need to do all this stuff. No, you need to just chill and rest and find yourself. So having that happen and coming home, I had a big breakup. You know, that's how I ended up back home at 23. And lo and behold, my wife now, Katie, you know, she had a big breakup all the way in Italy, and she's back home living with her parents at 22. You know, it took a year of being home that like we started, you know, hanging out, and then it evolved from there. But yeah, it's crazy, man. You know how life is. Like everyone's got a story, right?
Yeah. Listen, it's crazy, but it also set the seeds for a lot of things like
Amen.
being excited about performing
Yep.
and traveling a lot and being on tour and being comfortable anywhere and everywhere. So things like that and experiences like that set the seeds for why you end up different.
Well said, Jonah. Well said.
So talk to me a little bit about your journey becoming a magician. So I mean, not to go back to
No, no,
that
no.
moment, but you go home, all your friends are in university, you got sponge balls and a pack of cards, and you're like
That's right.
you're like, I guess this is what I'm doing now or whatever, right?
So
Like
like
I guess I'm a magician. So how did you figure it out? Like what you pull up your pants and say like, "Hello world, like hire me?" Like how did you get the ball rolling?
Oh man, it's such a great question. Yeah, when I was in Michigan, I was there for 2 years. I lived in a town upstate in Michigan, and I started working at a Chinese restaurant. There was a retired firefighter at the magic shop that used to come, and he said, "Mario, you're always here." He's like, "Come work on Friday nights with me," and that's how I started performing. And then I came home. Listen, I wanted to be David Copperfield. I wanted to be David Blaine. I wanted to be so the idea of like a kids show, like a birthday party was like the most haunting thing. It's like it's not what I want, you know? And like it was crazy. A couple of weeks before I left Michigan, I had a dream, okay? A dream that woke me up at 3 in the morning of me performing in a basement of a church with kids of all ages and all abilities and the floor was lit up in the floor of the church of the basement, and these kids are laughing like so hard, and I'm laughing on stage, and we're all laughing, and there was this joy that was so powerful that I woke up, and I was like, what a stupid dream. I'm like, what does this mean, like, yeah, like
Stupid
I'm just
kids.
like,
What was I
what is this
thinking?
dream that's, and it's crazy because 20 years now I still go back to this dream that I questioned so much, that was like, but it was so strong, and I realized that the thing I was running away from, like these kids' birthday parties, like these kid shows, that it was the very thing that like I'm created to do, man. That's like what I'm supposed to do. Because at the time when I came back in New York, there are kids' birthday parties everywhere. So I want to do money making magic, so I have to do kids' parties. All these magicians in New York City, they don't want to do kids' parties. So who do they give them to? They give them to me, like I'll take them because
Right.
my dream in life, and why I left at 17 is because I want to follow my heart, right? Like my dad was a stone mason. He came from Italy. I'm first generation American. I watched my dad grow up. It wasn't easy. Like being a mason outside, working 24/7 to support a family is not easy. And that hit me hard. Like I don't want to do that. I want to do something I love. So that drive, it didn't matter what it was. If it wasn't magic and it was cooking, whatever it was, that's what struck me was magic. Like I fell in love with it, right? So deep that I couldn't sleep at night. That's how deep it was. Like I wanted just to learn so much. So long story short, the reason why I'm talking about all this, Jonah, is because at the end of the day, what was important to me was that I paid my rent doing what I love. That's all I cared about, more than magic itself. So I took these birthday party gigs because I wanted to pay my rent, doing something other than, like what I wanted to do, not something that I had to do. And it was crazy. It took about 2 years of that, Jonah, until it hit me. Like I said before, the very thing I was running away from was the very thing that was making me money, and then I found out that I really loved it, and it was like my dream, like they say the audience creates the performer, right? Like I did shows for just adults and I sucked, like it wasn't good, like I didn't do well, and then you put me in a room with kids and I'm acting silly and I'm acting confident and I'm acting like I know my business, and like the kids are laughing. So it was like this evolution, right, where like I had to admit to myself, what am I not good at and what am I good at, right? And it was hard, but I'm sorry that I talked so much so fast. It just, this stuff is key to me because sometimes as performers or anything in life, we force ourselves into things that we think we want, but we don't realize the things we need, right? So that was one of those moments.
First of all, I don't think I've ever heard of anyone having a dream and then that influencing them. So again, it's a crazy background story here. But I do, I do like the idea of figuring out that like literally the thing that you were trying to avoid, or at least, you watch everyone else try to avoid, you start thinking to yourself like, I guess they're all doing, like, should I not want to do kids shows? And maybe you're dragging your feet a bit. And then you're like, what am I talking about? This is where I shine the
Yeah,
best. And this is
yeah.
where I have the most fun. And like, what on earth am I talking about?
Exactly.
And you know what? I think a lot of magicians can take a moment, especially people that do different types of
Yeah.
magic, and take a moment and be like, which one of these do I absolutely hate my life before, during, and after? And then
Yeah.
which ones of these do I enjoy so much? And you can start tipping the scales and making performing magic a little bit more fun by being a little bit self aware like that. I think that's a great piece of advice, a great piece of wisdom.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the show itself. So I guess, you're around New York
Yep.
doing shows, and then, now when I see videos of your shows and clips and stuff, and obviously I'm sure it's evolved, but I see a lot of work with all of these robotic objects and all of these,
Mhm.
like, loads of these different stuff that you're interacting with on stage, which means that you must invest more time and effort and dollars and learning and whatever to build these things. What made you try to start moving in this direction for your magic? Because many people survive on rings and sponge balls and cards, and they don't build robots to work with them.
They don't build robots to work with. Yeah,
They
I
don't, but
know,
you
I
made
know.
you made some
No, you're
robot
right.
friends. It's amazing.
You're right. And like, I don't know, like one of my favorite friends is my boy Paulie. He lives on a boat in New York City. Like, and the reason why I bring him up is that like people like him taught me like to never be afraid of learning new things. Like I don't have to go to college to learn a trade. Like if I'm obsessed with it, I'm going to get every book I can, utilize the beautiful ocean of the internet. And that's what it was for me with electronics and robotics. Like I was obsessed with automatons, like the old magic automata. So I got into the Arduino. It changed my life naturally. It's just this little blue $30 board that you buy, and you plug it into your computer and you can make motors move. It's pretty amazing. Like before all these resistors and capacitors and all these gizmos to make circuits, you don't have to do that anymore. You just plug in this board and attach certain motors in, and now you have movement and animation with programming. So that stuff fascinated me. Around 2005, 2006. And listen, you know how this happened, Jonah? I was at a show, man, at a school, and this couple, while I was cleaning up, after my show was done, the father said really loud. He probably didn't think he heard me, but he's like, "Oh, that was Mario the Magician? Are you serious? That's what we paid to see?" And it killed me. It crushed me. But it was a turning point in my life where Katie was like, "You need to adapt these weird robot machines that you build all the time into your show. Like you need to adapt every talent you have that you've harbored all these years. They got to be in your show. Like if you're gonna do the hippity hop rabbits, then do them in a way that adapts to the artwork that you're obsessed with." And because of that criticism, I built this thing called the opener in my show, where it's like all these banners open up electronically, and then one by one, these banners and flags fall off my suitcase, and I got to pick it up and fix it, and the kids laugh, and it's like this choreographed thing with music. By the end, like everything falls, spring snakes shoot out, and my suitcase collapses on itself. And it's like 14 servo motors, a bunch of magnets. It's all choreographed to music. It took forever. Like every time a kid didn't laugh, I would reprogram the wait period of when the signs would fall, until now I have it where it's like there's all kinds of cool stuff happening. So that evolved because of that criticism I got from that show. If I didn't get that criticism, I would have never had that burning desire to like make something better. And then from there, dude, it just snowballed. Then I built, a robot monkey, and now I have this big card machine. And like I have a robot rabbit that comes out of my hat. And all this stuff is 3D printed, 3D designed, and I purposely use 3D design software that kids can use so that I can prove to them I built these on the same programs that you guys are learning at school. Like these are 3D designed on Tinkercad. I used a MakerBot just like you have at the library. Like, and I don't care. I show them the inside of my case. I show them how the rabbit appears. Because to me, man, it's about letting go. That's my life. It's about letting go. Like I want these kids to go home and like start building robots. You know what one of the greatest compliments I got, Jonah? I was in Youngstown, Ohio, and I had this kid open my show, and he brought this award ribbon made out of a bottle cap. That's the opening of my show. I use this bottle cap award ribbon, and he built his own. And he's like, "Mario," he was so excited. "Look what I did before the show starts. I built a bottle cap award ribbon like your show." Like it moved me so much. That's my equity. Maybe I won't make $1 million in my life, but that's my $1 million. That moment, right? So I know people get obsessed with keeping secrets, all this stuff. But when it comes to kids, to me, man, I'm very different. I try to be open source. I really do.
You know what? I think it's awesome to, first of all, to quite easily solve the problem with kids, which is when they say, "How does that work?" to say like this. But also,
Yeah.
what's really funny about that is, something that recently Adam Rubin said to me
He's an
really was
awesome,
interesting.
awesome human. Yes.
He's awesome, and he said that when you reveal how a trick works, if it is less exciting than you assumed, then it's a
Mm.
letdown. But if it's more intricate and exciting than you would have assumed, then it's exciting. And
Yeah.
if everything is built with like complicated robots and magnets, and you're like, you can do this too, it is more exciting. If a kid is really interested, like, how does that work? And then he finds out that it is actually more exciting, that
Yes.
to go deeper. It's not like, oh, it was just another one in my.
Mm.
They're all seven of
Well
diamonds. Like,
said.
it's not boring like that, right? Instead, you're saying like, look, it's machinery. You can do this too. Like it's the stuff in your
Yes.
libraries that
Yeah.
you like. It's incredible to be able to lift the curtain if somebody asks and say, here, like, dig in.
Yeah. No, you nailed it. You
Like, see,
nailed
when I'm doing a show and a kid asks me about how something works, I'll say like, here, let me teach
it.
you a trick, because
Mm.
I want to like set them on the journey. But it's even cooler to say like, you want to know? Here, come look. And you lift the curtain, and it's like, holy crap. Like, that's amazing. That's even
Listen,
cooler.
both
So
answers are right. See what you did? Like
yeah.
you didn't reveal the secret that they wanted, but you taught them something, right? So like you got the ball rolling. Like I'm like that too. Like I won't tell them the method of how I created the magic, but I'll show them the electronics. And then there's certain things I will. So I really love that you do that, Jonah. That's awesome. And also Adam Rubin, man, he's speaking truth. That's true. That's a very well analyzed plot there that he's speaking of. Like if the secret is more exciting, man, then bring it, right? Like especially for me, for kids, like it's a tough battle. Like I like the challenge. I like the shouting back at me. I like, I know how you did it. All right, let's rock it, because that's my style, right? It's like I'm in your face like that, and it all comes from those birthday parties in a living room with like 30 kids screaming in your face, about to grab your stuff. Like that all comes from that, like listen, like the greatest opportunities I've ever had in my career, they've all come from a kid's birthday party. Like every single one. I got on Sesame Street, it's like, it's because it was a kid's birthday party whose dad was doing lighting. And then another kid's birthday party, it was the Roots from Jimmy Fallon, like the band The Roots that played for Jimmy Fallon. Like I did one of their sons' party, and then I got an opportunity to do stuff. We have to be flexible with the details of our journey, man. We have to, like we can't just be nitpicky about gigs. Like we have to be flexible because every gig is important, and it's something I constantly have to remind myself. Like the idea that like I'm worth more than this gig, so I'm not going to take it, is baloney. We have to stop thinking like that. Like, and I know there's boundaries. Don't get me wrong. Like if it's a gig that's going to undervalue who you are and people are going to step on you, don't do it. But don't do it because of what other people are looking at you. You got to figure it out yourself. It's a flexible thing. Uh,
So I'm thinking more about your show, and I want to ask you a little bit deeper about bringing these robots, these automatons to the show, but also bringing, and this is the real thing that I want to get into, is bringing value. Like
mm,
bringing more, bringing bigger, better, more interesting. Like, and I like that story that you told about overhearing the guy say like, that was it. Because
yeah.
it is so easy to, like I said, put 4 sponge balls in your left pocket, put a pack of cards in your right pocket, and to go to town and say like, hey, here I am. Like I'm charging $2,000 for my show,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and you can leave everybody sort of, feeling okay about, oh, he was
Right.
good. Yeah, he was great. But instead you choose to invest and do something bigger and crazier and original. And, so talk to me a little bit more about making that decision and what someone can do right now if they're looking at their magic and they're like, well, this is just run of the mill crap.
Yeah. So why do I do these things? It's because I don't want to be lukewarm. I hate lukewarmness. Like I want to be either super hot or super cold when I'm on stage. Like you know who I am and you know why I'm here, right? There's this Josh Farley. He's a magician I met at Abercorndabra. I don't know how old he is. He's so young. He must be like 19 or something. He was on Penn and Teller Fool Us. It was such a big opportunity, like, and he's on there, and right away, you know who he is. and you know why he's there. Who is he? He's super nervous. He's an anxious kid who's homeschooled, and like he just has to overcome his fears as a performer. He just wants to perform, but he doesn't have the confidence. So right away, that's established. Why are you here? Why are you on Fool Us? Well, because I want to overcome my fear, you know? I want to overcome my fears, you know, in performing. Saying that in front of a live audience on TV, that's so vulnerable. But what did it do? It made everyone applaud louder. Let's do it, you know, Josh, you can do this, man, you know? And like, I'm saying that because to me, every morning I ask that question, who am I and why am I here? Because if I don't know who I am and I don't know why I'm here, it's going to reflect when I stand on that stage and perform my show, you know? And for me, and it keeps reminding myself, I'm here to like show creativity and how much you can do with being creative. And then I'm here to make kids laugh. That's it. Show them like the education side and make the kids laugh. You know, if I'm doing those two things, I feel fulfilled when the show's over, you know? And as long as I focus on those two things, where it's like, I'm not going to elevate myself and my ego. Like, look at me. I'm the best magician in the world. Like, look how fancy I am with this cut. And look how fancy this robot is. You guys can't do that. Now, all of a sudden, I'm losing focus and my show's going to suck. No one's going to care. But if I am taking my time, every kid that comes up and honoring who they are, what's your name? It takes courage to come on stage. Let's give her a big round of applause. Like honoring every moment, right? Every second. And who you choose to come on stage too. That's something people overlook all the time, man. I'm super sensitive with who I choose. I want to choose the people that deserve to be up there. And before the show, I talk to kids. I see them, the ones that are nervous. And if I see that they're willing to come up and I take a risk. I let them come up. Even though like they're scared. Why do I do that? Because I want them to overcome their fear, man. Isn't that what life is about in the end? It's like overcoming fear. That's what David Blaine taught me too when I got to work with him. It's like watching someone like overcoming all these fears in life, you know? Like
It's unbelievable. You know, one of the things that I see so clearly is putting the experience and the learning of kids like up on the top of the important things
mm,
of your show. And I keep going back to this, but it is so easy for magicians to buy 10 tricks and be a magician, you know,
yep.
and especially to say like, oh, these are kids magic tricks, you know, like the
Mm,
D.I.Y or the
yeah.
bunny,
Yeah.
the like hippity hoppity rabbits, and finding a way to make those unbelievable, to add all of these creative aspects is amazing. Talk to me about the, you know, what your goals are with the kids. I know before we press record, you were talking about like STEM and STEAM and stuff like that. And I know that you are very message forward in your kids show. You know, you don't hide the
Yeah.
fact that you're you know,
I
giving them
don't.
wisdom about the real worlds and things like that. So talk to me about what it is that you're sharing with these kids and why.
Yeah, I don't. And you know what? Like we did it. We got to perform at the National Puppetry Convention. It happens every 2 years. They took a risk on me. They're like, "Well, he's a magician. Well, he's got robots, and it's puppetry." You know. At the end of the show, I talk about like, "Thank you for supporting my family. You took a risk. You hired me. My kids are in the audience. My wife is right there." Like, so every angle, even the idea for these puppeteers that want to pursue puppetry for a living, letting that ring in their ear, like, "You're supporting my family. That means you can do it too, right?" Like even as an adult, if you're trying to like take that risk, creative risk, there's a way to do it. It's not easy. Like we work 24/7, man. Like someone asked me, a magician asked me recently, how do you book tours? Like help me, you know, I want to book a tour. Like as if like there's some elixir. And I said to him, dude,
They go
Katie.
to booktours.net
I mean,
and
there used to be a book. You know, when I was 17 with punk bands, it was called like book your damn life or so. I forget what it was. But anyway, the idea was Katie was saying I wrote 253 emails. All they're not forward emails. They're all handwritten to individual theaters in hopes that they will write back with a little snippet of what we do, and those take days to write, you know.
of course,
From those 252 you get like 5 responses, you know, and maybe 4 of
totally.
them book, but that's the start, right? It's like constantly working ahead. So what am I trying to say from the question that you asked is that yes, like I break down the maker movement, you know, I talk about how important making is. Why is making important? Ask me. Well, they say, why is making? Because when you make something, you understand something. And what happens when you make something and it breaks? And I wait for the kids to answer and they say, you can fix it. And I say, exactly. That's why making is important, because when you fix something, you become stronger, man. And I tell them to tap their head, because that's the evolution of climbing those steps of confidence, you know, that you're smart, that you can do it. So you make something breaks, you can fix it. Like breaking down these core principles so that kids can understand the importance of it.
Wow, it's so amazing, and even grown-ups can look up to what you're doing with STEM, with these robots, with little what are they called? Raspberry Pis? Yeah, like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
are doing it. And I'm sorry I talk so passionate about it. I just
no,
believe
no,
in
this
it.
is the point. This is the
Like I
point,
believe in
right?
it
Like,
so much.
I think it's awesome, and I think like you make it incredibly accessible. How hard do you think it is for someone if they're going like, "Oh, I wish I could build my own thing." Like, how hard is it for someone to build their own with no coding knowledge and no knowledge like
Yeah,
that? How
that's
hard
a
is it for
great
someone?
question. So, like, these kids are seeing these robots and all this stuff. I tell the parents, like, tinkercad.com, like, you can go tonight online and for free set up a 3D design account for your child or for yourself. And there's tutorials that are free to learn how to 3D design. Check your local libraries. Type in Makerspace on Google near me. Like, you'll see libraries that have 3D printer that are accessible. I tell parents 3dhubs.com. What is 3D Hubs? 3dhubs.com are people all over the world that want to 3D print for you. There's people in your town that have a 3D printer that will print your projects for $8 and they'll mail it to you. So there's no reason why you can't access this stuff. And then I talk about the Arduino. The Arduino, you can order it on Amazon for $15. You plug it into your computer. Like if you YouTube Arduino tutorials for kids, like you'll see it. There's maker spaces and there's schools all over the country and world with these kids in second grade learning Tinkercad, learning 3D design. These are the things that in 18 years are going to be more relevant as time progresses. Same with the VR stuff, the virtual reality stuff. Like it's just hitting me like this stuff is not going away because it keeps getting better. Like the way people are making art on VR.
It's so amazing because if you zoom out to think about what you're doing, you're encouraging the inventors of tomorrow to like
Mm.
get to it, like get going.
Yeah.
I had a moment recently. I saw on Facebook or something, someone posted a photo from a magic
Hmm.
convention like 50 years ago or something. And there was all these famous magicians in this photo. And you could see the look on the eyes of the famous magicians being like, what are you doing with the camera? Like, what are you? And I was just thinking about how like now someone might be walking through magic convention vlogging, and then in 50 years, we're going to look back at that.
Yeah.
And, also similarly, now you see magicians dipping their toes in the world of
Yeah.
VR and building things, like you're talking about, which is like these people who now someone's looking at like, well, that's new, well, that's
Yeah.
different. Well, that is, helping pioneer and helping excite the next generation and helping, be
Amen.
the first creators and
Yeah.
documenters and all that stuff. So it's amazing to see you not only working to help kids, but, help kids to focus on something that is quite future oriented.
You're nailing it. I in my show now, if you go see my show, I don't have a bunch of robots. I have scattered about my sacred robots. I used to have all robots in my show, and then people were like, "Okay, this is way too much." But now I have like like I have 3 or 4 elements in my show that are robotic, and to give that flavor. But you're tapping on it, like the stuff that's new now, like that camera picture is what's standard now, right? I always laugh about Instagram too because like you take photos and now you have filters to make it look antique, make it look old. So like we don't want perfection either. We always gravitate to the artistic. And but anyway, yeah, I mean and like when I have 3s and 4s in my audience, I tell them the word programming and I say, repeat after me, programming. And they say programming. And I'm like, when
Right.
you get just the idea of the word in their mind.
Coding.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
real. Like my 4-year-old bear, he's doing coding apps for robots on the iPad, while we're driving that are age range starts at 6 years old because we're making it into a game. But I mean, look, it goes back to that question, Jonah, like, who are you and why are you here? And I have to just keep focused on my little talent, right? Like, this is why I'm here. These are my robots. If this inspires you, go chase after it, and let's laugh, right? Let's laugh because life is short, man. Let's laugh as much as we can. And then that's it. Thanks for supporting my family. I'll see you guys later.
Amazing. Wow. Let's talk about the choreography that you have to do and how you pull that kind of thing off. Like, I'll tell you a quick little story. I once tried to do a magic routine with an audio voice that responded back to me.
Mm,
Thankfully, I have this show here in Toronto called The Newest Trick in the Book where we can test out new material, and so it's an
nice.
open mic night. So I tried it 5 or 6 or 7 times, and I could not get it right.
Mm,
I couldn't get the taking notes after recording it one night to change the audio to this to back and forth. And I can imagine it's the same or more obviously difficult to
100%.
do that
100%.
kind of back end thing
Oh yeah.
with like you're building a spectator or like an assistant, like
Yeah.
what kind of process do you go through to figure that out and have it work and not just be a weird back and
Oh
forth?
man, Jonah, if you ever come visit me in Nyack and you come look under my bed, you will see a bunch of robots that have not made it in my show. I have like
Ah, that's
I have
amazing.
so many sad robots because of that same
Oh,
plot. Like, how do I make the audience believe that it's happening for real? And as much as it theoretically in my mind has to work, and I put all these hours into it, man, I have this robotic side table that comes on stage and like he gets mad and he knocks stuff over. It just doesn't work. But that's okay, right? Because the ones that do play big, and the only reason why they do exist is because of all those ones that didn't, right? And I would have never, like I say, like if it was easy, everyone would do it, right? But yeah, dude, I when you talked about the open mic with the audio, oh, my heart breaks because I know that feeling so well, where it just
yeah,
doesn't work, and you keep
yeah.
editing it, and you want to pull your hair out. I mean, it just that feeling never gets old. Like every time it happens, I deal with it even today. There's something new I'm trying to add right now, and it's just not as much as I believe in it. The audience doesn't.
It's such a crazy feeling, and again, stuff that I didn't know that I signed up for when I decided to be a
Right.
magician. I tried out that trick like a dozen times and then I gave up
Yeah.
on it. And then actually recently someone sent me a message and he was like, "Oh, is that one of those shows? That was, I love that trick. I was so
Mm.
inspired." And I was like, "Damn it, I have
Yeah,
to
you
do
have
it.
to do
Damn
it.
it." So yeah, I'm gonna have to go back to the
Yeah.
drawing board soon.
It's
But
it's not by chance. It's not by chance they said
damn it, I have to do it. But
that.
I love it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about life on the
Yeah.
road. The reason I was so excited about that origin story to magic, going with your dog on
Yeah.
the road, was because it's so obviously related to the way that your family lives now and how you guys travel and how you decided to raise a family. So
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about that decision and how it's been working for
Yeah,
you.
like, because like when I was 17, 18, man, it's like I'm invincible, right? You think you're Superman, like nothing will break you, right? I had $10 in my pocket. I could care less that I was in the middle of Colorado and on a highway. I could care less. I believed in the universe so much. And like, you know what? I never went hungry. Like I always had money. Like that kind of raw, sheer confidence in life is so dangerous, but like that spirit of joy, like thinking about it now, it's like I would never do that again, like, but that idea of like having children now, like my daughter Gigi and Bear, you're like, how do I make them feel that joy, So like, what did I do? I bought a Volkswagen bus, a 71 Volkswagen. It's in my driveway. I restored it. So what do? We book a tour where we're making money. We're not with just $10 in our pocket because we have a family, and we work hard at getting these shows. And we drive this bus, right, that goes 55 miles an hour across America to Colorado to do shows. It breaks down 5 times. Every time it breaks down, I'm like screaming on the top of my lungs outside, trying to figure it out. And somehow, some way, like it gets fixed and the engine starts and we're all screaming with joy now, like, and like we make it and we cut. And like, I remember like being on a highway in Colorado at this mountainscape and me holding my son Bear with 2 hands in the air, like screaming for joy. And Katie took this photo by the bus. Like it's the most powerful picture to me. That's what I'm going to look at for the rest of my life. And like, how do we create these moments, right? So for me, it's like, it's trying to relive them, but it's trying to evolve them into my kids, right? So like, it was very foolish to take a bus to do a tour. Like we were late for shows, like, but like that vulnerability in life, like taking that risk and being vulnerable is so key to understanding humility. Like it's so key to like to realize like when you leave your hometown, it humbles you. You realize that you're nothing. Like nobody cares. It's like up to you to like make something of something. There's a musician, I forget his name off the top of my head. He literally, out of desperation, because he wanted to do music full time so badly, he rented a U-Haul and put a piano in it, and he just traveled to bars, unloading this piano and just playing music. And he did not stop, and he still hasn't stopped to this day. I forget who the musician was, but I loved that story of like, it's going to make or break me. There's a truth to that. I mean, you can't be foolish about that. Like, I didn't leave again to hitchhike and just go for no reason. I had booked gigs that were going to pay us money, and we saved money too for that first tour, And what did we do next year? The next year we didn't use the bus, we used a Toyota. But the idea is to keep that that wandering dream alive where we could do this, and we're homeschooling. It was very scary at first, like, oh my gosh, you're taking your kids out of school, that's really dangerous, do you know what you're doing? Like all this stuff, kind of like, yeah, we know what we're doing, man. We bought
Yeah, we'll
curriculums
be good.
and we're rocking it. We're doing the best we can. And every year is a risk that we feel scary about, like the homeschooling thing was last year. But the idea is sometimes to listen to nobody except yourself and your family, like, and sticking to your guns in some sense. And now what is the goal now? The goal is to like do theaters. Like, how many theaters can I do? Like, how long can I leave my home in New York and still pay my mortgage, still pay my bills, and survive in a different town? And that's been the big joy right now for Katie and I. How much can we do and leave home?
So exciting, and it's also one of the funny elements of me chatting with people like full-time pros on this podcast is often they talk about like, you don't understand how hard the tour life is. They
Yeah,
talk about like life on the road and being alone in a
yeah.
hotel and all this different stuff that is painful. And I've myself traveled long distances all alone to do a magic show, and like,
Oh
a lot of
yeah,
those hours aren't
yeah.
great compared to doing the ones that are great. And it's interesting that you've made it just the opposite. The journey getting there is just as much of a journey as the show, and
Yeah.
the whole experience is like enjoyable. And like, it sounds like you loved going on tour. You're more excited than any magician I've ever heard to go live on the road for 3 weeks or whatever,
Yeah.
and just taking life like that. So, but I do think you sound pretty joyful
No,
about
I
a lot
do.
of
And
things.
it's
But
hard,
it,
man. Like, we had a 3-week stretch just now. We got back. The kids, they don't want to be in a room all day. And so it's a different kind of hard, right? When the show's over, you have the kids, they got to eat. Like, what are we doing? They want to do something fun. Like, come on, dad, the show's over. Like, and I'm exhausted. Like, my 55 minutes, everything. Like, I'm done. I'm like tired, like I'm learning just like all these other people that do it alone. They have their suffering. It's hard, like, and Katie and I, we were talking about that last week, like, because we need to find balance where we need to make sure that like everybody's learning and everybody's having fun, in some sense, in a good way. And we are, and we're doing it, every tour we do, we learn something new.
yeah, you get better and
Yeah,
you
exactly.
figure
You
it out.
nailed it, man. You get better, and you do the best you can.
I want to talk a little bit about, and I know we kind of touched on the simple answer before, but I want to talk a little bit about, booking these tours and booking these shows. Like, the secret, which you already mentioned, was a lot of it, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, a lot of doing. Is
Yeah.
there something that you did in, setting your sights on theater specifically? Or, is there something that you decided that, wow, things really changed for me when I decided to do this instead of doing this? Were there any big turning points in getting
Yes, there
hired?
was. And that's a great question. So, like, a couple years ago, there's this thing, I don't know if it's called APAP or something, but it's this convention thing that people, performers go to, like magicians or like, and then you have a booth and you pay like a lot of money to have that booth. And then theaters, reps of theaters show up and they see your content. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So like, and that's how people get work. Well, Katie's like, she's like me. It's like, dude, everything we've gotten is from us. So what we did was, instead of paying this big chunk of money, one year we're like, you know what? Let's just rent some spaces in places that we want to go to, like Asheville, North Carolina. Okay, Asheville's awesome. Let's look at theater spaces. There's a 100-seat space. They want $900. Oh my God. So let's save $900. Let's rent it, and then let's put some Facebook ads, and then let's try to get a school or two in Nashville so that we can make up for it if we don't sell tickets. That was genius. That was Katie. That was so smart. Like doing a financial risk of renting a space, bypassing everything, theaters, their ticket processing, splits. All of a sudden, we're in charge of the house. Katie goes on brown paper tickets. That's how we get our ticket sales. And then what was so smart about Katie is that she did targeted Facebook ads to families that live in the area that we're performing at. Targeted Facebook ads to parents that have kids in the age range of the show that we're catering to. That kind of stuff helped a lot, and sometimes we hit and sometimes we miss, but starting with a small venue that we can afford, in our budget was like around $1,000, so we did that. And that's how we started. And then we pitched to schools. Like, for us, it's the STEM and STEAM. So we're lucky in that aspect that right now is trendy, for schools. And it's still hard, dude. People don't care what your credentials are. Like, they don't want to read an email. So what we do is we have a 2-minute reel that we hired somebody to make for us of highlights of the show. We don't reveal the show. And that helps a lot too, like having that 2 minute reel and updating constantly on Instagram. Like Katie's just constantly updating our family life, our show, when we have a good show. Like it takes one good pick, and that helps a lot when people look at your website. So yeah, and that's more of a Katie question. She's teaching magicians how to market. She's been doing online classes for them, and so she's really good with that. And that's one thing that like I'm learning is it's like two different businesses: the performing side, making sure your show is on point, and then the business side, you're making the right calls to get the work you need.
Totally. And it's incredible that you guys are able to work together and sort of team up to make something, bigger, bigger than the two of you. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and
Like,
it's hard, Jonah, it's hard because like that's my wife too, right? We're business and we're family, and it's like this constant dance. So I'm super grateful, man. Every day I thank God. Like I try my best every day to wake up and just be thankful for everything I can think of and start my day out right. I talk about that in my lecture too. It's like how we start our day is how our show is going to be, like we have to, our attitude of when we show up on stage is so key. Charlie Fry is one of my favorite magicians in the world. I don't, Charlie Fry, and one of his, he talked about how before he stands on stage, he has a trunk, and behind that trunk are stickers, and on those stickers are the magicians that he looks up to, and he looks at every sticker before he steps on that stage, and he thinks to himself like, am I going to honor these magicians when I stand on that stage, or am I not honoring them? Like, what is my content going to be? Like, and he said, and you know what he said when they asked him? They said like, what's your goal when you're on stage? He's like, what my goal is? I just want to hold a candle up to my heroes. That's my goal. Damn, man. It's not about being the greatest magician in the world. It's not about being the smartest. It's not. I just want to hold a damn candle up to the people that help me. I mean, talk about
yeah,
authenticity. Talk about being real. That's why do you think magic is evolving in that direction of storytelling? And like people can call the bull crap. Like if you look at a
mhm,
video from the 1930s, you could see terrible acting. Because you know why you can notice
yeah,
it is
yeah,
because our whole mind is a video. We are staring at our phones. We can
totally.
pone out good acting so easily and bad acting, because this is the content. We're looking for authenticity. That's why reality TV is so powerful. That's why it doesn't go away. Is like we are obsessed with Facebook Live and Instagram Live. Anyway, I'm preaching. I'm sorry, Jonah. You got to cut me off sometimes.
No, 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 no. But I love it. And I also agree. Like the reason why people's like, shit detectors are so good right now, like
Yeah.
bullshit. Everyone knows that you're
Yeah.
lying. Like everyone knows,
They call it out.
like there's no secrets anymore.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
there aren't like there's no secrets anymore. So, but it's funny about these interviews because I always want to ask like, how do you get booked, or how do you have like an
Right.
amazing show? And like the answer is always like, well, you just like email a lot of people and you work really hard on your show. Like how many more ways are there to say that, right? So
Because it's truth. And I'm so happy you said that. And the way you said that just made me so I started clapping because it's because it's true. What you're saying is true because I don't know how to explain it. It's just a bunch of people telling me that I suck over and over again and me just trying to make myself better, and care about what I'm performing. Like it's hard to explain. And it's so funny you said that because to somebody, how do you say that in words so that there's because there is no secret elixir. There isn't like, well, if you have this trick in your show, well, then you're golden. Like, no.
totally. And what you said about like people's bullshit detectors, like the thing about that is that like there is no
Yeah.
shortcut. Like you can't have a really amazing show without putting work into a really amazing show.
Yes.
So like everybody knows, like,
Mm.
if you're doing someone else's act, like everyone knows, like, like they know, like it's not.
Amen. Amen. Speaking truth, brother, man. You speaking truth. 100%. There are no shortcuts. And that's like the painful thing. Like, I got to be an opening act. It was so hard, Jonah, man. It's hard because like it was all adult audience, and I had to bring kids on stage and I had to convince these adults that what I'm doing is funny and clever. And like every show was tough, but like every show I got a little better. And now like a couple years have gone by, like it was the most greatest treasure that ever happened in my life because I shifted my show so much to make sure that every eyeball that's in that theater, that I'm touching their eyeball in some way, whether it's doing slapstick or something that's magical or whether it's something that's vaudeville. But having like tough experiences is the only way to like to grow. Like, and it's hard to deal with criticism, but like it's how we evolve. And like it really is like a boxing ring. Like how many times can you get up and have a smile on your face, and try again. It really is. I learn that all the time. But I'm so happy you said that stuff, Jonah. That made me so happy. That was my favorite part of the interview. I
Well,
loved it.
oh, well, thank you. It's good that you mentioned, the challenges as well, right? We see these beautiful like Instagrams, you see these videos, and obviously we're learning. And
Yes.
now that I have mentioned, I have mentioned that idea. This next question, the answer can't be by working
Yeah.
really hard. Okay,
All right, all right, all right. Deal.
in your show, you've got moment
Yeah.
after moment of something interesting or funny or a response or a hook, or and I think about movies, like these movies like Airplane. The movie Airplane has the most jokes per minute of any movie. And yeah, and the show 30 Rock has the most jokes per minute of any television show. And I start thinking about this stuff and I'm like, yeah, like it's these moments per minute, right? It's like, and it seems to be like totally packed. So how do you
Yeah.
pack your show with so many moments, where some of us just stand there, talk for 20 minutes, and then the
Oh.
card was in the box or whatever. And like
I guess for me personally is 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 like showing up for a birthday party, a kid's party, where there is no stage lighting. There is no dimming of the audience lights. There is no, you're in a living room, the parents are drinking, the kids are screaming. Like, how do you handle that? I don't care who you are, whether you're a juggler or mime, good luck, because that is the most toughest gig to me in existence. And from that grinding and that's of just like, will this work, maybe this, I don't know, let's do this, like, and it's so funny because it doesn't get old, even like in gigs that I have now. You have to be so flexible. Like, people will relate to you if you're relatable to what's going on right now. So when I was at the puppetry convention, instead of me doing my standard opener, I right away I took one of the lines that the host was saying about cleanup at the dorm rooms, and I was like, man, you guys must have been cleaning up all week. The way he was like, talking about cleaning up, man. The way, and I got a big laugh. I didn't write that joke. I was just living in the moment, and I got lucky. Like, there's so much of that. It's not always about the set list. It's about being flexible within that set list of what's happening right now. If I'm at the right gig, I will put a playing card on the ceiling before everyone shows up at the gig. So like, the higher the gymnasium, the higher the ceiling, the better. And I'll load that card up. And for the most part, 99% of the time, no one sees it. And if I have that opportunity, I do it. And then I open my show with someone picking a card. It vanishes out of the deck. And I say, you know what, man? It's over your head. And I let that sink, and then they all look up, and then boom, I have this huge reaction, and now the whole show is me surfing this wave. I mean, dude, I could just talk about my top hat the rest of the show. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm surfing this wave. So I'm trying to say, why am I bringing that story up? Because a lot of it has to be being flexible with your material. Like that standard SpongeBob routine that gets to the explosion at the end, it has to be done differently based on where you're at. Like, if you're doing it for someone who's 4 years old, or someone who's 80 years old at a senior center, or at a college frat party, like, the pattern has to change. There's no way the same pattern is going to work. There's no way. And like, you know what? And another tip is, I saw this from Bill Irwin and a lot of these great performers. They go to so many shows. They go to as many shows as they can that have nothing to do with magic, and they take notes on every show. And I'm like, why do they do that? And I'm realizing now, because every show has a beginning, middle, and end. And it doesn't matter if you're a magician or a Broadway show. And how they create that beginning and middle and end, you can learn from it. Not by copying it directly, but understanding, connecting. How do we connect? And it's tough, man. I don't have the answer, dude. I mean, like, there's shows where, like, I'm just suffering through the show and I'm doing the best I can. And then, like, I'll tell you one example. I did a birthday party years ago, and it was terrible. Like, no one laughed at every joke that I did. And, like, I thought it was terrible. I don't know. And, like, I give the present at the end, and I do my show, and I leave. And then that night, I'm just so pissed. I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, these parties, and I get an email from the parent, and Katie's like, you got to read this email. And it was the mom. And the mom said, Frankie went to bed, and he told me to turn the light back on. And Frankie told me to told me that today was the greatest day of his life, of his 6-year-old life, because of the magic show, And then it's like someone threw a knife in my heart. Like, it's not about me. It's not about what I feel when I'm done with the show. I got to stop thinking like that when I perform. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. I'm getting sidetracked on, but it's important, man. You know, like the attitude of like showing up to a gig and just saying thank you right when you start and looking at every single person is important, you know, because when you treat it sacredly, your patter is going to be spoken with that authenticity that we're talking about, where people can call the bull crap, man. They know. They know when
Yeah,
you're
they
not
know.
being true.
Yeah,
They know.
yeah,
And kids, they'll shout it in
yeah.
your face,
In the
dude. They
middle.
will shout it in your yes, in
Yeah,
the middle.
yeah.
Anyway, I know
Yeah,
I'm
they
blabbing,
do.
man.
No, they know. No, man, this is the point, and it's you said in there something about like the things you care about or your passions, and like the most exciting and the most electric thing in life, always with teachers, with mentors, with people, with someone you're dating, someone you're like is someone being excited or passionate about something, right? Like being yeah, so being excited about something and being passionate, and that's the stuff that you can't fake, and if you do fake, you can see right through. So it's great to like you said, you're just giving it your all every show.
Let me tell you something. I was in Pennsylvania at a performing arts center, and this guy, as I was setting up, kept staring at the headlights above me for like 10 minutes, and I'm getting upset. Like, what's up, man? Are you trying to figure out my secrets? Like, what's going on? And finally, I was like, hey, what's up? What's going on? And he's like, dude, we just got these stage lights in. I've been waiting like 2 years. And then he just starts talking about these stage lights and what they can do for like 5 minutes. And by the end of it, I was excited about these stage lights. And I don't even care about lights. But the fact that he was so excited about it, I got excited. And it made me realize it's like Juan Tamariz, like playing the violin, after the set's over. Like, it's about that. It's about being like when you see someone passionate about someone, excited about something, you can't help but feel that, and that's all we want to do is like we want to feel that. So like when you said that, Jonah, that hit me hard, man. You're so right. Like to me, that's the takeaway. Find what you are so excited about, and like, man, I hope it has nothing to do with magic, and then somehow take that excitement and evolve your show into that, whether it's like Dungeons and Dragons, or whether it's like, something else like a TV show. You have to chant. There's a reason why you're feeling that. There's a reason why you're excited about that. And if you're a performer, that has to be on stage. It's like John Archer from England, performing with the ukulele at the end of his show. It has nothing to do with magic, but the audience goes nuts because he loves the ukulele, and he's just, and it's like, so we all love it because
Yeah.
he loves it, right?
No, no,
Like,
it's literally
anyway, I'm sorry, man. I get cheesy, but it's like,
I
Joe,
agree with
this
you.
is this is what it's about for me, Like, I love robots. I love them,
It's funny you're talking about falling in love with magic, right? And what's so cool
Yeah.
is, however many years later, a few years later, you started falling in love with robots, and now like you're a robotician as much as you're a magician, whatever whatever that means. Like you found a way to
Yeah.
make that your job
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
and I'm sure if you fall in love with blowing glass, then there'll be some beautiful glass in your show, and like
Yes, yes. Amen, man.
we're all multi-dimensional, and it's great to pair those things together. My last
Exactly.
real question before we get to the wrap-up questions is, we were talking earlier about trying to choreograph a routine with audio or with a robot that's talking back to you and whatever, and then you were
Yeah.
mentioning a bit about being flexible with your script. How much of I don't see
Mm.
you pressing a lot of on buttons or off buttons. Sometimes when you do, the robot turns it off or whatever. So I don't actually know when things turn on and off, and how much of your show is on a timer, and how much of it can you say, you know what, I'll have to cut this or whatever. Like how flexible can you be?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's so funny with magicians. They're so
Yeah.
terrified of like the timer principle, like the idea that you don't have a remote control in your pocket to press when you want the action to happen. So, and I'm such a firm believer about creating a script, especially with robotics. Some of my stuff has sensors, but some of them doesn't, and it's choreographed to music or choreographed to what I've learned over the years that kids will laugh at. So, and that's the flexibility there. The flexibility was me reprogramming the routine over and over again for months until it found this like spot where it kind of works, and then I'm just flexible with my pattern stuff. But listen, man, you tapped on something awesome, Jonah, for the end of this, is that flexibility. I always tell people, like, you got to be passionate about your dreams, but flexible about the details of those dreams. I heard someone talk about that. It was a keynote speaker at a maker summit say that. And it hit me hard because like we have these dreams of like I want to be on, late night television, or I want to be on Carnegie Hall. And then there's all these opportunities that happen along the
Right,
way. And you're like, well, I'm
right.
not taking that. That's not Carnegie Hall. That's not, late night. And then you're forgetting that those are the stepping stones to Carnegie Hall. Those are the stepping stones to Lincoln Center. And I've learned that over the years with the birthday party gig where everyone is so refusing to take it. And like, and every
And then all of a
opportunity that I
sudden
had.
you're on Sesame Street.
Yeah, all of a sudden I'm on Sesame Street. I'm like freaking out. And I'm just realizing, and that was just one opportunity. There were so many. So I'm learning every day to be flexible with the gigs I take, because at the end of the day, my favorite performers that have inspired me now that I've met, I've watched them off the stage and they're always performing. If they're at the gas station, they're like trying out a new trick because they're trying to get those mistakes over with before they get on stage. And I love that they love magic so much that no matter where they are, yeah, maybe it's annoying, but so what? They know what their greater goal is. They know what their focus is. I want to stand on stage and own it. So hell yeah, I'm going to practice in the living room. Do you have a second look at this? I like that. And I appreciate that. And that kind of stuff is universal. It's universal no matter what career you pursue, is that kind of dedication.
The thing I want to mention about that before we get to the wrap up questions is I always joke, I think I said it already once in this, which is like, that's not what I signed up for when I decided to be a magician. And I say that funnily because you become a magician and then
Right.
all of a sudden you have all these responsibilities. You have to have a website, you have to take photos, you have all of a sudden you have to, someone says you have to learn stage
Right.
makeup. And you're like, what? What do you mean I have to, you have to learn lighting, you have to learn sound, you have to do all this stuff. And I think back to the parts of magic that excited me, and that was tinkering around with a book and
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
trying to put together this thing and put together, and as I've become more of a full-time performer, I've found myself losing that. So it's really
Yeah.
to see you like doing a lot of it and
Damn.
inspiring a lot of it, and just reminding us that that's the whole,
Yeah.
that's the reason probably that we're here.
Yeah, I mean, that's why Picasso draws like a kid, in his 60s and 70s. It's like, because, dude, you nailed so much truth, Jonah. Damn, so much truth. You're so right on. It's like because think about like Facebook got invented because what's his name was in college. Like when you're in college, you're so flexible, you're so free, you have zero things going on. Like you're experimenting. A lot of innovation happens at those age ranges. Where like so it's like, how do we stay moldable? How do we stay soft? How do we stay flexible, as we get older and as we progress? Because the older we get, the more stubborn we get too. Well, I know the answer to this. I had a magician critique my show. He saw me in Portland, Maine. Actually, I'm going to plug him. His name was Scott Green. He's from Chicago. He's an amazing children's performer. He said, I watched your show. And he's like, I got some notes for you. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What do you mean you got notes for me? Like, I don't want to hear any notes, like I work my tail off on this show. That's all I do. And those notes were so rich. Like he gave me advice that I should have paid him money, like a lot of money for, like just subtleties. Because when someone's standing on the outside watching something, they see it differently than you do when you're in it. And I think that's another key component if you want to evolve your show. Like, don't be afraid of inviting people that you trust that can give you proper advice to like sharpen what you're doing, to help you tell the story better, right? Aren't we telling a story? How do we tell that story better? And that's what Scott did for me. He like helped me tell my story better. There's a few tweaks that I'm going to
Awesome.
tweak that
and
made
and
sense.
I know working with people has been super like working with other magicians that you trust, and getting notes and trying to be open to that kind of thing, makes a massive impact. So I agree, and thank you for that reminder,
Yeah.
for us to be open to our peers. Let's get to the wrap up
Amen.
question. So there's a few final questions that we
Yep.
ask every guest. So the first is, what is something going on in the 2019-2020 world of magic that you like, and something going on in the coming world of magic that you don't like?
Wow, damn, dude. All right. I like the way magic is evolving. I like people like Xavier Spade. He's a powerful performer. Like I love what he's doing. Like he's putting content on YouTube, making it accessible. I always say YouTube is like the modern day library. Like I met him at a convention. There's a guy that showed up and he's like, Xavier, he's like, he's like, I came to this whole magic convention just for you, you know? And I was like, that's so weird. This guy, and he talked about how he was going through a really dark time in his life and like he wanted to quit everything in his life. And Xavier's videos encouraged him, empowered him. And it had nothing to do with the magic. It was just about him, like how Xavier, climbs up in his struggles, helped him climb up and prevented this gentleman to make some really drastic decisions that could have ruined his life. And they didn't because of Xavier Spade, and his work on YouTube. It brought me to tears, man. That's the evolution of magic that I love, that it's accessible to people of all kind of genres, no matter what level of magic they're in. That's something that's a positive for me. And people like him are pioneers in that element. I guess, yeah, I guess what I don't like are the numbers in magic clubs and how they're getting less and less, like the physical appearance of like the membership. I have a club here in Yonkers. It kills me because for me, everything is about letting go, like how do we help the next generation kind of thing. And like, I wish there was more youth involved at the magic clubs. And I don't know how that's going to evolve with technology, but all that stuff has to it's evolving in a new way. Like I said, it's evolving digitally and all that. And maybe that's my old school self, like what I'm used to, that I need to grow up in, where like things are changing in a different way that I'm not used to, right? People are like on different platforms on social media, learning in different ways. But I like the personal connection with conventions and stuff. I just hope that, like, there's a lot of magicians that are in their teenage years that are winning competitions, that are performing. And I would love to see more magicians that are more established elevating those performers and recognizing these performers that aren't recognized yet and lifting them up and talking about them and giving them the attention they deserve. There's a magician out of Iowa. His name is Elias. He just won Tannen's Magic Camp. It was like the juniors competition.
Yeah. I met him at Magi Fest last summer. He's great.
No way! You did?
No, I actually a few times, and when I was in Minneapolis. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
there.
there's a crew of magicians there in Minneapolis.
Yeah, exactly. There's a great community.
There is a crew there. There's a dangerous crew of young kids.
They're great.
That are going to take over the scene.
I know they are. It's unbelievable. I know.
I'm not joking. Like, they support each other so much. And I bring up Elias because you better watch out, man. He's taking over.
I see you, Elias. I see you.
And like, yeah. And
I
like,
see you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on Team Elias.
I'm on his team, right? I'm on his team. Like, and I'm just saying, like, what do we do in life? We spend our life elevating our career so much so that to the point when we get to where we want to be, we're realizing we stepped on all these people to get there. I don't want to be that. I'm 39. I'm going to be 40 next year. I want to spend the next 10 years lifting up people, man. Like lifting up these kids. Like, because when I turn 50, man, I want to be part of that team where, like, that's why I love Juan Tamariz so much. He shows up to a convention. Because he was helping people out, in the 90s, early 2000s. He's showcasing a new kind of magic that evolved. And like, for me, it's not about me being remembered or like leaving some legacy. It's just about me recognizing that life is temporary. We're here, we're gone, right? And the more I realize that, the more I look at these kids that are coming up, like, what can I do? That's why we open our shows when we go to different cities. I put an email out and Facebook message out. Are there any young kids that want to open my show, like for 10 minutes? Like, because I wish when I was 22, I wish there was someone writing emails like that. So I want, like, get a chance. And there's another magician, Anthony, that lives in the Chicago area. He's killer magician, man, from a killer family that support him. Colin, that magic kid, he lives down south. And then he just won Scottsdale, Arizona, the big national IBM convention. He won the kids version of it. You got to watch out for Colin, man. He's no joke. Like, this kid is a giant. He's only like 14 and he's killing it. So anyway, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, let's bring these, let's elevate. Let's elevate, right? That's it. Let's elevate.
It's very funny. Just to touch on one thing there. There is this like separation between like the old school magicians and new school and like all this stuff, which is crazy. And no one's ever said it the way that you did, to sort of bridge the gap, especially in the direction from the older guys to come help support and respect and excite and promote and talk about some of these younger guys, which is incredible. If you want to hear something especially funny, because the good thing you liked was people like Xavier Spade, and the bad thing you liked was disappearing magic clubs. You should listen to the episode that we did with Xavier, because he shares some opinions on those things, and I think it'd be pretty cool to see those worlds collide.
Oh, I didn't know you had him on there. This is awesome. Had him on. I'm on Team Xavier. Yeah. Like, this kid, I've watched people come up to him and he's changed people's lives in such a positive way. So that's who I want to be. You know what people say? You are the air you breathe. I want to breathe that air, man. 100%.
The next thing is the endless chain. So, in order to keep the podcast going on for eternity, each guest is asked to recommend another guest that absolutely must be on. So, who must we absolutely bring on this podcast who would be so great?
Oh, have you done Vinny DePonto yet?
Nope,
Vanishing
nope,
Vinny?
nope.
Oh, dude, Vinny
Great,
DePonto is
great.
awesome. He's such a talk about like a trailblazer in theater. He lives in Brooklyn. He's doing all kinds of experimental stuff with magic, and he's always pushing the bar. And not only that, he's just a really great guy. And I'll tell you a story about him. I got to perform at the Magic Castle for the first time, and it was last Christmas at time. And then that Monday, who's performing? Vinny DePonto, and it's his first time too. And we're both like sitting there nervous, and like it was just so fun for both of us, like to be at this beginning, performing. And but yeah, what's cool about Vinny is just watching his journey. He's been like, he's consulted for a lot of big names in magic, and also I like that he's a risk taker in theater.
Awesome. Great recommendation. The next part is the take home point. So people have been listening to us talk about everything under the sun for about an hour, and people listen to this podcast doing lots of stuff, driving their car, walking their dog, washing dishes.
Yeah.
If they can think back to this episode and take home one most important thing, what do you think that thing is?
We cannot do great things, only small things with great love. Mother Teresa said that. It's something I think about all the time. We didn't get on the moon because of one person. Whatever small thing we do it with great love, And when we do it with great love, that small thing, it has big impact. And the reason why I say that is because when we're on stage, we have a small job. We're in front of an audience for only a small amount of time. And if we take that small job seriously and we do it with real, authentic, great love, and I mean that kind of love where like you're just thankful every second you're on there, no matter what happens, and you're just appreciative every moment you're on, that changes people's lives. I've watched it in my own show from emails that I got from parents that have kids that are autistic or that have disabilities, and like them paying attention, like just showing great appreciation for all walks of life, like is really important to me, so like to not take what we do for granted, that it's just a show and like, I don't know, I'm just going to try this trick out, but looking at it like this opportunity that like, how can I connect with another human being and make it in a way where they're just less fearful, less scared. I remember Jim Carrey used to talk about that all the time, like on stage. He's like, people just don't want to be scared. So like when I'm on stage getting crazier, I'm showing them that I'm less scared, and it makes them feel less scared. Like I loved that, like there's some truth to that. So that idea for me is really key. And before I go, I'm going to say one last thing. There's an amazing juggler. He goes by One Man Variety on Instagram. He talked about one day about this show before he went on stage. He looked through the curtain, and he looked at every single individual face. And he said that as he looked at every face, he said, "Thank you," in his mind. And then he looked to the next face, and he did it for a solid minute. And he didn't know why he did it, but he said that was the only show that he got a standing ovation for that year. And that says something to me. But I'll leave it with that. All right.
What an amazing thing to leave us with, to think about the impact that we leave in doing our shows, and obviously the importance of the work that we put in, and what it is we're trying to say and what we're trying to put into the world. So thank you for that. And last and finally is plugs. So where can people find you? Where can they find out your tour dates, and where to catch you on the road and to come see the show? Bring the kids if they have any, or just come without the kids.
Yeah, it's fun watching.
Or get the kids a babysitter and go see the show.
Oh man, yeah. So you could follow us. We do a lot of posting on Instagram. So Mario the Magician on Instagram, Mario the Magician, and then online, MarioTheMagician.com is where we post all our tour dates and just content, and then Facebook. We're very active on Facebook, and that's also just Mario the Magician. And look, before I go, I just want to say thank you to Jonah, because what you're doing is so important to the community of magic and to performers everywhere. And I was thinking about it as we were talking, because what you're doing is creating a time capsule for other people to get inspired as time goes on and the next generation comes up, that we can hear an inside scoop of all this stuff. So I put my arms and I say thank you. And thanks for all that. Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing me on. It really means a lot to me and my family.
Thank you so much for coming on, bringing the heat, and sharing with us sort of the inside scoop about why you do what you do, and that magic elixir we were talking about that you said doesn't exist. I think it's called passion, and I think you have it. So Very excited, and hopefully we can get you to Toronto to bring some
Oh,
magic
I
here.
would love that. I would love that.
Amazing,
Thank
amazing.
you, Jonah.
Thank you, and a thank you to everyone listening who joined us for the episode, learned a little bit of magic, and is going to put some more good into the world. We will see you all next Thursday. Well, there you go. I hope that you liked the episode and I hope that you learned something. Take a moment, absorb some of that passion and some of those lessons, and make sure to put it to good use. That's the whole point of this, not just to listen to an episode and fill your ears with joy, but also to put it into the real world and actually put it to good use. So put it to good use. And if you like the episode, if you learned something, share it with the world, tell somebody, help spread the word about what we're doing here. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next Thursday.